Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into, fintech, but not just any fintech. We're looking at the booming scene in emerging Europe.
It's a region that's really, come into its own, generating a lot of buzz. Not just following trends, but setting them.
Right. So we're using this report. It's called Investment in Emerging Europe's Fintech Ecosystem. What's next? And, kind of just getting into what makes this region so special. Why is everyone so excited about it?
It really is fascinating. I mean, you've got this incredible blend of factors you don't see everywhere.
Okay, so lay it on us. What are those key ingredients that are making emerging Europe like the place to be for fintech?
Well, first off, the talent pool is phenomenal. Seriously. You've got countries like Poland, Estonia. I mean, these places are known for producing some of the best developers globally. And a lot of them are choosing to work with, you guessed it, fintech startups.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And talent goes where the action is. But it can't just be the brains, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be more to it than that. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Governments are playing a huge role, too. We're talking regulations that are actually, get this, tech-friendly. Like, they want this industry to thrive. Lithuania, for example, they've got this fintech sandbox, a safe space where companies can test out new ideas, under the supervision of the Bank of Lithuania before they go live.
Smart, like a testing ground for innovation. So they can refine their products and make sure they're secure before they hit the market. And of course, we can't talk about disruption without mentioning, the elephant in the room the past few years.
The pandemic, yeah. I mean, no one could predicted how much it would accelerate, everything digital, but especially how people manage their money.
Right. Suddenly, everyone needed digital banking and online payments, like yesterday.
Yeah.
And fintech was ready to step in.
Exactly. They were perfectly positioned to meet that demand, and they've been capitalizing on it ever since.
Okay, so we've got this perfect storm brewing, tech-savvy population, governments that are actually on board, and a huge need for digital solutions. So no wonder emerging Europe is taking off. But let's put some names to the faces, shall we? Who are the big players? I'm guessing we got to start with Revolut, right?
Revolut is definitely a major player. Based in the UK, but their European banking arm operates out of Lithuania. And they've got, get this, over 30 million users globally.
Wow, 30 million. That's huge. What's their secret sauce? Why are they so popular?
It's a combination of things. Their platform is really user-friendly, super intuitive, plus they offer a wide range of services, all at a very competitive price.
Smart. They've made it simple and affordable. No wonder they've got such a broad appeal. Now, what about Paysera? They're another big name in Lithuania, right?
Yeah, Paysera is doing some really interesting things, especially when it comes to accessibility. They're focused on making money transfers and banking services as affordable as possible, particularly for markets that have been, kind of underserved by traditional banks.
That's really important, isn't it? Making sure that financial services are available to everyone, not just those who are already plugged into the system.
Exactly. And speaking of reaching a global audience, we can't forget about Wise. They're originally from Estonia, and they've become a giant in the international money transfer space.
Wise, yeah. I've used them myself. They're great, super transparent about their fees, and the exchange rates are really good.
Yeah.
Didn't they have a pretty big IPO a couple years back?
They did. Back in 2021. It was a real milestone, not just for Wise, but for the whole CEE region. It showed that companies from this part of the world can compete and win on a global scale.
That's awesome. They broke through a barrier and opened the door for others to follow. Okay, so we've got these giants like Revolut, Paysera, and Wise, but who else is out there making noise? Who are the up-and-comers we should be keeping an eye on?
Well, Romania's got a couple of really interesting companies that are making waves. There's Salt Edge. They're specializing in open banking.
Open banking. Can you break that down for us a little? What exactly does that mean?
Basically, it's about giving consumers more control over their financial data. So, imagine you're shopping online and you want to finance a purchase, but you don't want to go through the hassle of applying for a loan through your bank. Open banking lets the retailer offer you financing options right there at checkout, using your banking data with your permission, of course.
Oh, I've seen that. It's super convenient. So Salt Edge is the behind-the-scenes player making that kind of integration possible.
Exactly. They provide API solutions that allow banks and fintech companies to share data securely. They've even partnered with a major European bank. Erste Group to improve their multi-banking features.
Very cool. So Salt Edge is like the bridge between traditional banking and this new wave of fintech. And you said there was another Romanian company.
Yeah, fintech OS.
Yeah.
They're shaking things up with their low-code platform. It makes it easier for developers to build financial products even if they're not, like coding wizards.
That's awesome, democratizing innovation. And it seems like investors are taking notice. They just got a $60 million investment from a group led by BlackRock.
Exactly. That's a huge vote of confidence, and a sign that fintech OS is onto something big.
Romania's really killing it in the fintech space. What about Hungary? They've got a pretty strong tech scene too, right?
Definitely. Keep an eye on PassPay, a Hungarian company that's simplifying B2B payments. They just raised $12 million to scale their business.
Interesting. I can see how that would be in high demand. As more businesses go digital, they need efficient and secure ways to handle payments with each other.
You got it. The CEO, Benjamin Berenyi, he's been pretty vocal about the need for more flexible payment options in the B2B market.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about the talent, the support of governments, some of the big players and the rising stars. But what about the people? How is all this fintech innovation actually impacting lives in emerging Europe?
That's where things get really exciting. This whole fintech boom is playing a major role in promoting financial inclusion.
Okay, tell me more about that. How is fintech making a difference for people on the ground?
Well, imagine being able to access all sorts of banking services without ever having to step foot in a bank. That's what fintech is making possible for millions of people in countries like Romania and Bulgaria, where cash has always been king.
So they're opening up a whole world of financial possibilities for people who might have been excluded from traditional banking.
Exactly. And it's not just about individuals. Fintech is also a game changer for small businesses, helping them access the capital they need to grow. It's a real engine for economic development.
And even with everything going on in Ukraine, their fintech sector is still going strong. That's incredible.
It is. Companies like Monobank are leading the charge with their app-based banking solutions. People can manage their money entirely through their smartphones, even in the midst of conflict.
Wow. That's resilience and innovation at its best. It really speaks to the power of technology to bring about positive change, even in the most challenging circumstances.
Absolutely. And this is just the beginning. The future of fintech in emerging Europe is bright, and we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
I can't wait to dive deeper. Okay, so we've established that emerging Europe is a fintech hotspot, but where's it all going? What are the big trends driving this growth?
Two trends really stand out: open banking and embedded finance. We touched on open banking before, but I think it deserves a deeper look.
Yeah, it seems like a big deal, but I'm still wrapping my head around it. Can you give us like a simpler explanation? What's the gist?
Sure, it's all about putting you, the consumer, in the driver's seat when it comes to your financial data. So you decide who gets to access it, how they use it, all with your consent. And it's all happening because of PSD2.
Right, PSD2, that's the EU directive that's paving the way, right?
Yeah, PSD2 is the game changer. Basically, the EU is saying, hey, banks, you got to share data with approved third parties if the user says it's okay. This forces banks to open up their systems and data, which means more competition, more innovation.
So it's creating this more open and connected financial ecosystem.
Got it. And how are fintechs taking advantage of this? As PSD2 takes root, we're going to see a wave of fintech startups creating solutions that, well, leverage open banking. Instead of just relying on those old banking systems, they can plug into this network of shared data to create these personalized and super efficient services.
That's pretty disruptive, isn't it? I mean, it could change the way we think about banking altogether.
Definitely could. And then there's embedded finance. Ever been shopping online and seen the option to finance your purchase right there at checkout without dealing with a separate bank?
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. It's so much easier.
That's embedded finance, seamlessly integrating financial services into everyday life. So it's easier and more convenient for people to get the products they need right when they need them.
So I'm not getting bounced around to a different website or app. The retailer's handling everything.
Exactly. And this opens up a ton of opportunities for fintechs because they can partner with these non-financial businesses, provide the tech and infrastructure for these embedded finance solutions.
So instead of battling banks head on, they're teaming up with businesses in different sectors. Smart move.
Totally. Embedded finance could be huge. I mean, it's blurring the lines between industries and changing how we interact with financial services, fundamentally.
So we've got these two powerful forces, open banking and embedded finance, shaping the future of fintech in emerging Europe. But what about the overall market? What can we expect in terms of investment and competition?
As the market grows up, we're going to see consolidation. The big players are going to snap up smaller startups to expand and grab more market share.
Kind of like the natural progression, right? Does that mean the doors close for new startups, though?
Not at all. Even with consolidation at the top, there's always space for fresh ideas and innovation.
Yeah.
And global investors are still pouring money into the region.
So there's still plenty of funding out there for those with the right ideas. That's good to hear.
Oh yeah, the fintech scene in emerging Europe is dynamic, constantly evolving. New challenges, new opportunities, it never stops.
Speaking of challenges, what are some of the roadblocks companies might face?
Well, one big one is finding skilled workers. Sure, the region's got a ton of tech talent, but the demand for specific fintech expertise is skyrocketing.
It's a talent war out there.
It is. And then you've got cybersecurity, a constant concern. More financial transactions moving online means a bigger target for hackers. Fintechs have to prioritize security, invest heavily in it to protect data and maintain trust,
That's critical. One security breach can wreck a company's reputation, especially in finance, where trust is everything.
Absolutely. And we can't forget about potential changes in regulations. Right now, governments are pretty supportive, but things can always shift. Fintechs have to be ready to adapt, stay compliant.
So it's a balancing act, right? They need stability to attract investors, but they also need to be flexible in a constantly changing environment.
Exactly. And another key factor is fostering collaboration between fintech startups and traditional financial institutions.
So not viewing each other as enemies, but potential partners.
Yeah, there's so much potential for win-win situations. Fintechs bring the agility, the fresh ideas, while banks have the infrastructure, the established customer base. It just makes sense.
I see what you mean, combining strengths. Now, even with those challenges, you're saying the future of fintech in emerging Europe is still bright.
Oh, incredibly bright. This region has what it takes to be a global leader. No doubt about it.
So what is it about emerging Europe that's attracting all this fintech investment? What are investors seeing?
It's a combination of things. A young, tech-savvy population with rising incomes, a growing middle class, perfect for fintech companies targeting a new generation that's comfortable with digital, and they've got money to spend.
That's like the dream demographic.
It is. And don't forget, doing business in emerging Europe is cheaper than in more established markets, so investors can maximize their returns.
High growth potential, lower cost. It sounds like a good deal.
It is. And then there's the whole issue of legacy systems. A lot of Western countries, their financial systems are built on old tech. Makes it hard and expensive to innovate.
Like trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation from 100 years ago.
Perfect analogy. But in emerging Europe, the infrastructure is relatively new, which means integrating new tech is way easier.
It's like having a clean slate. They can build the future of finance from the ground up.
Precisely. And we can't forget about the regulatory environment. Emerging Europe's governments are generally pro-fintech. They've created frameworks that encourage growth, like that fintech sandbox in Lithuania.
Right, that's a great example. They're fostering a culture of experimentation and innovation, responsibly, of course.
Totally. All these factors together make emerging Europe extremely attractive to fintech investors.
So it's like this perfect mix. Demographics, economic conditions, modern tech, and a supportive government. No wonder everyone's so excited.
Exactly. But like with any investment, there are risks. We talked about consolidation, but what else might investors be wary of?
What kind of roadblocks are we talking about? So what kind of roadblocks are we talking about?
Well, one thing to consider is the availability of venture capital. It might sound strange since we've been talking about all this investor interest, but access to funding isn't always evenly distributed. Some countries or specific areas within fintech might be attracting more attention than others.
So some startups might struggle to get the funding they need, even if the overall investment in the region is strong.
Exactly. And another challenge is the need for clear and consistent regulations. Governments in emerging Europe have been pretty supportive, but the landscape is still evolving. That uncertainty can make it tough for companies to plan long-term. And it can make investors hesitant, too.
It's a tough spot for startups, right? They need stability to attract investment, but they're operating in a field that's constantly changing.
It is a balancing act, for sure. And there's something else that's really important is encouraging collaboration. I'm talking about fintech startups and traditional institutions.
So not looking at each other as rivals, but as potential partners.
Exactly. They both bring something valuable to the table. Fintechs have the agility and new ideas, while banks have the infrastructure and the customers. If they can work together, everyone wins.
It's about combining strengths, Now, even with those challenges, you're still optimistic about the future of fintech in emerging Europe.
Oh, absolutely. This region has so much potential. I really believe it can become a global leader in fintech.
I'm convinced. This has been a fascinating look at how technology is transforming finance in such a dynamic region.
It's been a pleasure diving into this with you. It's really inspiring to see the innovation and resilience driving this fintech boom.
I agree. And for our listeners, here's something to think about as you follow this story. How can we make sure that everyone benefits from this growth? How do we ensure these advancements are shared fairly across the region? It's an important question as we move forward.